Barikadisala. Good afternoon and welcome to the midday news here on True FM 92.7. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Coming up in the next few minutes. Former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on international wanted list after he was officially placed on Interpol's red notice list. Also coming up, Special Prosecutor Kisia Jabin says he does not support calls for asset declaration by public officials. We'll tell you what he wants done. Much later, Ministry of Transport announces coming into force of the no permit, no excavator policy. But how will this impact on the anti-galamsey fight? We'll tell you more. Thank you very much for keeping your dials here on 3FM 92.7 on this holiday. Now, former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has officially been placed on Interpol's red notice list. The Special Prosecutor earlier this week announced moves to have him extradited following his failure to return to Ghana to answer corruption-related questions. Now, the notice made public on the 5th of June 2025 intensifies international efforts to locate and provisionally arrest the former minister, who is currently believed to be in the United States receiving medical treatment. The 65-year-old, wanted on charges of using public office for profit, is described by Interpol as a Ghanaian male born on November 7, 1959 in Accra, with black hair and eyes, standing 1.7 meters tall. He speaks both English and Twi. Now, this marks the second time Mr. Ofori-Atta has been declared wanted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Earlier this year, he was labelled a fugitive from justice after failing to comply with an official summons related to corruption investigations, including probes into the National Cathedral project and a provisional revenue assurance contract with Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, and ultimately to answer questions on corruption and procurement breaches. We're joined on the line now by fraud and security analyst Richard Kumado. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Kumado, we know of the implications of getting listed on Interpol's red list. It goes beyond an arrest and extradition. One's reputation, financial dealings, and professional life are equally impacted, right?
Definitely, yes. And the risk goes beyond the individual. Sometimes when we do the profiling to the third level or to the fifth level, it affects your immediate bloodline, it affects your associations, it affects your businesses, and it affects your acquaintances. Then when it comes to some transactions and activities you might want to engage in certain parts of the world, issues of fraud, financial crime, and money laundering, and crime-related red flags will always pop up, and you and all the people that have been affected will have some questions to answer. This is the reason. The Interpol platform is a very huge platform with a lot of followers, and all investigative agencies and prosecutorial institutions, departments, and units are all going to have access to your profile, and they will expand the spread to other databases that goes way beyond the Interpol platform. Financial institutions, service providers, border control, and many other institutions get involved. And those are the levels of red flags you are going to be dealing with. And that is why it's not a funny thing when you are declared wanted or fugitive.
It's not a funny thing you say, and people are saying that perhaps the lawyers of Mr. Ofori-Atta could have done better knowing the implications. Would you share that same view with them?
Definitely what I said to one of them to tell them. Definitely. Because these are not things you take lightly. It's not just the immediate person. And Beatrice, when we do the profiling or law enforcement agencies do the profiling, these are things that are going to stay in the database for life. And people with your surname are going to be affected whether they are directly related to you or not. So I was thinking They would have met halfway, considering the fact that there's bad blood and there's confrontation and agitation between the OSP's office and the lawyers. They could have met halfway rather than allowing him to be declared fugitive and a wanted person. It goes way beyond what we are thinking. It's not just when you kill somebody. We are talking about businesses and personalities and families and associates, and your name pops up all over the world when it comes to all databases. And you'll be hiding in your room or wherever you go, you are fugitive. Because I can tell you, in one of the countries across the group, a person was declared wanted and fugitive. Local investigators were sent to the country they suspect the fugitives to have been living. And lo and behold, they got closer to the person, arrested the person, and brought the person back home to stand trial. So there are various options at the disposal of the special prosecutor or any of the law enforcement agencies that might want to get involved. And I'm thinking the lawyers should have done a good job by getting to them in a halfway, particularly when we are one family in this country, and we might want to extend hate or something to that level. But hey, they choose the other option, and this is an option for the special prosecutor, and that is why he exercised it.
Could the challenge be that they perhaps didn't take the OSP seriously?
I should think so. I think they want to, the way we established this whole special prosecutor's office, and it was a campaign promise, and the man who championed and campaigned for it, our uncle, the first lawyer, the troubles he had with the president, Amidu. Then the special prosecutor, Ajabe, came in and find out who was Ajabe before he came into this particular role. Go back again and refresh your minds when he went to vetting and some of the things he said. He is living by those things. And they try to bully him, and it's not working. They try to say, we give you a job, and it's not working. They try to say, you are our small boy, and it's not working. They try to say, we passed the law exams before you, and it's not working. So I think at this stage, considering the posture of this particular attorney general and the relationship he has developed with all the law enforcement and investigative agencies, I think all lawyers must tread cautiously and let professionalism be at the forefront instead of personalities and who we were born before and who we know. That might not work in this particular case, and that is what we are saying.
I want to believe that being on this alert or list would also mean that your financial dealings would be looked at as well. How do you expect that to, what kind of implication do you foresee on his businesses, one, and also the fact that we understand lawyers of the former minister told the special prosecutor that he was undergoing a prostate cancer treatment. That would require a lot of money as well. How do you foresee that playing out? He needs to move money around, and yet perhaps this could also affect monitoring in terms of his finances.
If they were smart enough, this morning I woke up, I didn't know you were going to grant details, but those are the things that came to mind. If they were smart enough, they could disassociate him from some other businesses. That may create a lane way for him, or families may come to your aid. But to the extent that profiling will be done, if these family members are captured, it means that every money that moves, two things come to being: suspicious transactions and unusual transactions, and they are going to be scrutinized at the highest level. Not even when you are in Ghana, it goes way beyond all over the world. The FBI, the MI6, all the agencies all the big ones and the small ones and the units we might not even know, private investigators, almost everybody comes into the domain and they pick your data and set up their own profiling and they set up red flags. So definitely movement of money, assets and resources could be a problem. But if they are smart enough, they may play smart in some other ways, and some friends who might not come within the catchment area might come to his aid, and that might help him in that regard. Because for we investigators, we don't really care whether you are sick or you are not sick, because you can be tried in absentia, and even when you are dead, your dead body could be tried. Those are options available to them. So that thing, we shouldn't be using the sickness so much. But we should say that we are Ghanaians and we have responsibilities and we are being held accountable. We can meet halfway and make sure that the question that will be asked will be provided with some answers. Then we'll move on from there. And that's the way that I think we should run with this thing.
Mr. Kumado, thank you so much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
And you heard Richard Kumado. He's a fraud and security analyst, and we stay on issues of corruption because the special prosecutor, Kisie Jabing, also says that he does not support calls for asset declaration by public officials. Speaking at a high-level conference on Ghana's anti-corruption architecture, he said that it will subject public officers to reprisals against their asset. He therefore called for a more robust asset declaration mechanism which involved verification and tracing of undeclared assets. Let's hear what he said some few minutes ago.
There should be a more robust and effective asset declaration mechanism in respect of public officers and persons undergoing lifestyle audit to close the loop on the amassing of illicit wealth and to enhance accountability. We should move beyond mere repositories to a system of verification and tracing undeclared assets. However, I do not, and I will not add my voice to calls for the publication of assets for public scrutiny. In our experience, it will be unhelpful and would merely subject public officers to inordinate public curiosity and the specter of the real likelihood of reprisals against their assets. In my estimation, a publication of who has declared or has not declared his assets in the context of a workable asset verification and tracing model would be sufficient to assure the integrity of the asset declaration system. On another score, I dare say corruption begins where values collapse. That is why integrity must be designed into our educational system, from the basic level through to the tertiary level. And I'm looking at students. A student who regards a corrupt businessman as his or her role model would invariably emulate him without remorse. Do not do so. A society in which the youth adore and celebrate ill wealth would only reap get rich, corrupt, and fraudulent practices. I cannot state all that is on my mind on our accountability journey at this stage, Your Excellency, except to say that we must strive to change the narrative and fashion our own course and course by keeping the glimmer on the horizon glowing until the light beckons closer and shines overhead in a just and prosperous trajectory.
And you heard the special prosecutor, Kisie Jabing, speaking at a high-level conference on Ghana's anti-corruption architecture in Accra. Well, the vice president who was there also called for bold systemic reforms to strengthen the country's anti-corruption architecture, emphasizing the need for constitutional amendment, inclusive of legislation and sustainable funding for oversight bodies.
Revitalizing Ghana's anti-corruption architecture requires bold actions across multiple fronts. We must legislate and revitalize unexplained world orders, extending the application to both public officials and private citizens, while anchoring the principle of reverse burden of proof in our Constitution. The revised conduct of public officers bill will onboard the views of CSOs, anti-corruption institutions, the media, academia, the international community, and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that this bill stands the test of time. The bill will be open to a comprehensive engagement by all stakeholders, and its content and passage will once again demonstrate our commitment to accountability and the fight against corruption. Definitely, you talked about the asset declaration, and I agree with the major points you have made. We must ensure also that we have sustainable financing for anti-corruption institutions to reduce their influence and also to enhance their independence. The financing of political parties and national elections must be regulated through comprehensive legislation that addresses both internal party leadership selection and national campaign funding.
And I heard the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, 15 minutes past the hour of 12. Don't go away, we'll bring you more.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba, freezer. Adama, a Adama, Metimoso, my sorry. Canino, over Moasia. I do fresh the Nobium Union San last night. I don't know what we did. Adam of what you have from what we said. Yet you drew back up a ship will be a high technology. I could for freezer. When Kwan and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what's ya no fugum. What the boss here? For your being what you equity self, over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. No more send up for now, no freezer, power up a day, freezer.
Dacia, a person does so among Ammoniaji.
To me, me what's it car? To me, but you may not do some doom. Adama, with that Adama, no queer. Adama, you can't resist.
Ubenya Adama West Africa for a dream, or baby bear a tongue cry on way you. I say, Kayona Kinkai in Choya, a dream.
So here on the news on 3FM 92.7 now, President John Mahama's announcement to ban the use of takeaway packs known scientifically as styrofoam has ignited the plastic debate. Now, marking World Environment Day in Accra, the president also said that school decks will no longer be manufactured with wood as a means to reduce the felling of trees to protect the environment.
Planting trees and cutting them down at the same time. And so to reduce the cutting of trees, it is my intention to issue a directive to stop the use of wood for school furniture. We're soon going to pass a directive. School furniture will no longer be made of wood so that we can stop the cutting down of our trees. We will either use recycled plastic for our school furniture or we will use metal furniture. One of the other things we intend to do is to ban styrofoam as a food packaging material. One of the most pernicious polluters is styrofoam plastic. When you go to buy your food and they put it in that white plastic something, and then you finish eating, you just dump it. That is one of the biggest polluters. And so we're going to ban the importation of styrofoam plastics. We have to use paper packaging or aluminium foil for packaging our food. And so I'm informing the manufacturers and importers of styrofoam with the Ministry of Environment. Soon we're going to ban the importation of styrofoam and production of styrofoam in Ghana. Our food packaging will be made from paper and also from aluminium material.
President John Mahama speaking earlier. We stay on issues of the environment, and the Ministry of Transport has announced the coming into force of the no permit, no excavator policy. The policy aims to clamp down on the use of excavators in illegal mining and protect the country's water bodies. The release by the Ministry of Transport also said that all shipping lines should henceforth desist from transporting excavators into the country without permit. Dealers and importers of excavators are also to obtain a permit from the ministry before importing excavators. The Minister of Transport, Joseph Bukari Nikwe, in a media interview revealed over 200 excavators are imported into the country daily.
We, the Ministry of Transport, in our support to the fight against illegal mining that we all know to be galamsey, we are putting in place this ban or this prohibition of importation of excavators into our country. Mr. Evans, if you pay a visit to the port, the Tama port, you will see an invasion of excavators in that port. And we receive over 200 excavators on daily basis into our ports.
You mean 200 excavators a day?
Over. And for 3 weeks today, when I visited the port and asked for a halt in clearing of excavators, we have had over 1,200 plus excavators in the Tama port. And our intel said that on the high seas, we have close to 3,000 excavators coming in. And this is a disturbing and worrying situation. We can only stop this illegal mining if we look at the importation of excavators. And so it is on this basis that we have put a ban. But if you come and you are a registered mining company or a contractor and we are convinced that you need excavators to engage in your activities, then you can access a permit. But if you are not in that category, we advise that you do not attempt, because we will either confiscate it or will not allow it to be cleared in our port.
And you heard that the Transport Minister, Joseph Bukari Nikwe. Now, President John Mahama has promised a significant reductions in Hajj fares by next year. Speaking at the National Eid prayers at the Black Star Square in Accra, the president highlighted the government's commitment to reducing the cost of Hajj pilgrimage, following the continuous appreciation of the city. He also reviewed plans to introduce a new bill to Parliament aiming to make Eid al-Adha an extra holiday in Ghana. And we'll be bringing you exactly what the president said just very shortly. But ahead of that, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, has issued a stern warning of an impending strike over the government's recent decision to impose an amount of 1 cedi on every litre of fuel. Let's listen to the GPRTU speaking earlier.
We are here to make sure we organize this press conference on behalf of all transport operators. Commercial transport operators, including GPRTU of TUC, are by this statement demanding immediate removal of the 1 cedi energy sector levy imposed on petroleum products. This levy, which is coming on the heels of the recent reduction in transport fares, will significantly increase operational costs, resulting in loss of income, which will affect our livelihood and the general public. We are therefore calling on government to reverse the levy immediately and engage us on major stakeholders on the way forward. In the event that our call is not heeded to, we will be compelled to take industrial action and park our vehicles on June 10th, 2025. We urge the government to consider the impact of the levy on the transport sector and the consequences of our action on the economy, and engage us on meaningful deliberations to help address challenges in the energy sector. We thank you very much, and we are hopeful they will listen to us and act accordingly.
And you had a representative of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, speaking earlier. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon